It's a fascinating Academy Award-nominated documentary about incarcerated men exposing America's deadliest prison system. Co-directed by Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Andrew Jarecki, The Alabama Solution uses unprecedented access from the prisoners themselves, using cell phones to record conditions within the Alabama prison system. Here's a clip.
Crimes are being committed by the Alabama Department of Corrections.
And if we don't have these cell phones, these incidents are not even reported.
There are people leaving out of here in body bags.
They sweep stuff underneath the rug all the time.
They don't want the public to see what's really going on.
Joining us now is the co-director, Andrew Jarecki. Thank you so much for being here, Andrew. This documentary is really eye-opening. How did you learn about what was happening inside the prison system there in Alabama?
Well, almost by accident, we were introduced to a man who was a chaplain, was actually the first black prison chaplain in the state of Alabama. And he goes into the prisons as a volunteer, and he brings God into the prisons, and he brings food, and he brings hygiene packages. And when I met him, I said, you know, I'm very interested. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm interested in seeing what's going on there. And he said, well, just come in as a volunteer. And I said, they're not going to let me in. This is one of the most secretive prison systems, and prison systems by nature are secretive, but especially in Alabama. And he said, well, just come in as a volunteer. Don't even bring a camera. So we went in, and then we met a warden who was willing to let us film just the revival meeting. And when we went in and started talking to the men, we realized that there were many things in the prison that we were not allowed to see. And they would start to whisper to us and say, you see that building over there? That's where they have people in solitary confinement, some for 5 years at a time. That building over there is called the Behavior Modification Dorm. Somebody was killed by an officer in there. And so we realized that that was clearly kind of an emergency.
And this all kind of came about because your daughter brought a book home. Is that right, about the prison system? And is that how you became interested in this story?
Yeah. Our daughter was 14, but she's a big reader, and she knew that I was interested in prisons and had made films that had something to do with the justice system. And she said, I think you should read this. This book is really powerful. Let's read it together. So we read the book together, and then we just sort of spontaneously said, we've never been to Alabama. Let's take a road trip.
How were you able to get the footage?
Well, we learned after we went in the first time and essentially got thrown out because we were getting too nosy. We understood that there were men inside who were these incredibly strong civil rights leaders who had been running sort of a nonviolent protest movement. We wanted, if possible, to hear directly from the men. And we found out that there was sort of a network of contraband cell phones, and they had been using these devices to try to tell people what was going on in the prisons. And we ended up sort of having a collaborative effort to investigate this.
And it's been reported that 3 of the incarcerated activists from the film were sent to solitary confinement. Do you know why? Was that a punishment for their participation in the film?
They weren't. They've been retaliated against many times over the years because they are always doing this peaceful activism. In this case, they weren't retaliated against because of their participation. It happens that Alabama gets $450 million a year in free, unpaid labor from prisoners. Their outside supporters had called for another work strike like the one that we follow in the film. We sort of embed with them in the film in a work strike. They had called for another one, and then the administration didn't like that at all. So my assumption is that they were targeted because they didn't want that work strike to happen. So they put them in solitary before that work strike could happen.
It's an incredible documentary. Andrew, thank you so much for being here. And congratulations on that Academy Award nomination.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, hopefully more people see the film as a result.
Absolutely. The Alabama Solution is out now on HBO. ABC News reached out to the Alabama Department of Corrections for comment on the film, but we have not heard back. Coming up here on Prime, my conversation with Joshua Bennett discussing his new book, The People Can Fly.
Next week on GMA, your mornings will come to life with the stars of one of the most highly anticipated movies of the year, The Bride. Oh yeah, mornings this electric will make you want to scream. Only on Good Morning America.
Hello, America.
In Nate Bargatze's new game show.
You don't need to know the right answers, just what most Americans think is right.
It's not about being the smartest.
Who reads the encyclopedia?
I read it every day.
You just have to be the most average.
We asked 100 average Americans which of these would be the worst to have as a younger sibling. Werewolf. Is it because you look like a werewolf?
The Greatest Average American, Wednesdays on ABC.
Tonight,
The 4 victims were shot to death. All were teenage girls.
Just a tragedy. These girls, so innocent, enjoying their high school years.
Tonight, a major break in an unsolved murder case that made national headlines. He goes, "Are you sitting down?" He goes, "We got a hit." Bingo.
And he's a serial killer.
They're going to get answers, and we promised them that years ago. We're delivering on that today.
The all-new 2020, tonight on ABC and stream on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Will, what are you? Oh, just trying to solve the mystery of how to get to the damn crime scene.
Special Agent Will Trent. We don't have much time.
That thing you do, you better do it fast.
This killer's underestimating you. Good. They won't even see you coming.
What now? We get him.
Hi, I'm Conan O'Brien. I'll be hosting the 98th Annual Academy Awards Sunday, March 15th. Join me for a night of pure Hollywood magic.
Cut and freeze and hold the pose, Conan, and set the award. Okay, clear the mark, and action.
Whoa! See you there.
Cut, we got it.
So you're gonna cut out the middle part so that it looks like a magic trick?
Yeah, we'll cut it out.
Because I'll really look stupid if you don't cut it.
It's gonna look great. It's gonna look
Okay,
great.
I trust you.
This month marks the 100th anniversary of Black History Month as we celebrate the tradition. And Joshua Bennett spoke with us about his new book, The People Can Fly, American Promise, Black Prodigies, and the Greatest Miracle of All Time. Joshua explores how historical figures and institutions created pathways for the African American community to strive despite society's obstacles. He sat down with me to talk about his new book. And Joshua, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
This is your 7th book.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
So what inspired you to publish this book?
Wow, yeah, I think I was inspired mostly by my parents, who really created this powerful infrastructure for me to succeed as a very young person. The book opens with a scene of me at 4 years old preaching a sermon that I improvised off the top of my head. And my parents and my big sister, who were there gathered around me, this kind of congregation that we would recreate every Sunday. And at that moment, I knew that I had a voice, that they believed I had a gift that mattered. And that really inspired me to go along this path where I eventually became an author and a professor, but also someone who cared very deeply about African American history and other sorts of people who came from communities that told them they could achieve anything.
And you highlight some really, really historical figures and important figures in this book. Stevie Wonder, Malcolm X, Nikki Giovanni. What influenced you to shine a light on these figures?
Yeah, again, it's my family. So Malcolm X was the first film I ever saw. Spike Lee's, early 90s film. And after the movie, I just went to my mother and I said, well, how do I learn more about this kind of hero, this incredible performance by Denzel Washington? And she said, well, you got to read, young man. So she went out and got me this 544-page book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. And so I got that in my big red Webster's dictionary, and I read that book every day. My father, he would play Stevie Wonder every week. We could only listen to gospel music in Motown, and Stevie was my father's favorite. And so all of the characters, all the figures in this book, there's a personal connection for me. Nikki Giovanni, my sister went to an HBCU, Hampton University, and Nikki Giovanni was the first poet that she brought home from campus, her collected poems. And so this book is really a way to celebrate them, those historical figures, but also the family members who made me possible.
It's so wonderful. And let's talk about the cover.
Yeah.
What prompted this idea?
The color scheme of this boy on the cover who's sort of hovering there. He doesn't seem to be too concerned with what anyone around him might think, right? He's both supernatural and just sort of rocking an outfit you might see another boy his age wear to school. It also seems to be an American flag all its own, right? He has the red, white, and blue, but he's carrying it in his own way. And it's just a different sort of vision, I think, on both the 100th anniversary of Black History Month, but also the 250th anniversary of this country.
And I want to touch on the promise of young people and what it means to, have a mentor and have that support so that they can prosper and be successful. You asked the question early in the book, quote, what does it mean to be deemed promising in an unjust world? How much progress do you think we as a society have made in paving opportunities for success for people in the African American community?
Sure. I mean, I think, look, I will say that my story was made possible by the grace and imagination and love of a very small group of people who at various points, even when I got the highest possible grades on tests, even when I said all the right things in interviews, nonetheless, I didn't come from a family or from a neighborhood where people were en masse, entering the Ivy League or even going to college, even finishing high school. And so part of what that required were cultural institutions in various communities that said, we see your promise, we believe in it, and we're invested in it even when you fall short as an individual. And so I think as a country, we have a number of remarkable ways of identifying talent in young people, right? I'm the product in some ways also of those mechanisms that exist. But even when those mechanisms succeeded, nonetheless, I needed that extra level of support, as many of my students do. I teach at MIT now. Our average SAT score is 1,600. It's perfect, right? But those students still need support when they arrive on campus because they're human beings, right? They're not just a test score. They come from families. They come from cities. They come from neighborhoods. Everyone has gifts, and that those gifts can be cultivated through individual study. But I think our gifts are best cultivated in community.
The people can fly. Thank you very much for this piece of work.
Thank you.
This is very exciting.
This was great.